My name is Kristen Drake, and I am the clinical director for the Advance 2 clinical trial looking at deep brain stimulation for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. And I am talking today with Christy and Don Talbot. I will let them get into their story, but just really briefly, Don was involved as a patient in our first advance study. And so I'm going to start out, Christy, by asking you to kind of briefly walk me through your family's journey with Alzheimer's disease.
Sure. Back in, I guess it was 2004, Don was working a full-time job, and he also enjoyed playing music both professionally and for our our church band that we had in the morning. And I started noticing at that time that he was messing up. He was forgetting lyrics. He was missing notes while he was playing. And I knew something was seriously wrong because Don could play music by ear and he's just so talented. And it wasn't just that, but we also noticed things. He was currently driving a motorcycle to work, and he would come home and say he forgot things like when he stopped, he would forget to put his feet down. And so that's a big deal when you start forgetting things like that. So I got an appointment for Don at our neurologist, and I told him there's something wrong. I just know it. And it took about 2 years. When Don was 41, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. I was not one to want to accept that. So, of course, I went looking for a second opinion. And that sort of started our journey with Alzheimer's and what we needed to do.
So, on that journey, you did a lot of homework, as you just said. What kind of treatments have you tried?
We started off first learning about what the treatments are, and the doctor started Don on Aricept right away. After studying about the different things that they could do for the disease, I found out that these are not long-term treatments and they really don't slow the progression. And there's no chance of cure with these options. So we went on Aricept. Then later on, Namenda was added. And that's when I started realizing that we needed to get involved with research and trials. And that's when we ended up at Johns Hopkins, and we started with 2 drug trials. And I also did caregiver studies. I did 2 of those. And that helped us along our path to ultimately get to the DBS research, which we feel has changed his course of the disease.
Oh, that's great. So, Don,
Yeah,
you had surgery in May of 2013. That was just about 8 years ago. How are you feeling now?
I feel I'm happy to be here. Every day's a blessing,
Hmm.
and I try not to take any of it for granted. But physically, I feel fine. The only thing that stops me is this up here,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of things that I want to do. I really do, and I know my body could do it, but for some reason, the faculties are just not there to complete it.
There have been a lot of pharmaceutical studies run over the past 10 plus years since your diagnosis. What made you decide to join the advanced study? I mean, it's brain surgery, and that's quite intimidating, I know, to a lot of people. What made you choose this study?
I believe I shouldn't even really be putting that out there why I'm doing it. But I think it's important this time so there's others that'll pick the ball up too. You know, one voice, it's just a spark, but it could turn into a flame.
Mhm.
And that's what I hope happens. That's really what I hope happens. But I know this DBS it's the only reason I'm talking to you right
It
now.
is. Yeah. When his battery dies, and we've been through that twice now, I start noticing that he's not talking as much, that he's extremely quiet and withdrawn. And at one point, one of the batteries had died at the 3-year mark. And we were told that they should last around 3 to 5 years. And at that 3-year mark, I'm thinking, well, it's too soon. But I was seeing it over and over again with him withdrawing and just communicating less. And we had it checked out, and indeed the battery was dying. So I know it's working. I have proof it's working.
Oh, I could feel it.
Right.
I could feel it when they turned it on.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What is that feeling like? Can you describe it?
For some reason, everything around you looks just a little bit less dim, just a little bit dimmer than everything else around. And I think that has a lot to do with our physicality, because I think as we mope around, our eyes kind of droop, we look, but for some reason, when this thing turned on, my eyes opened up.
They did.
The lights came on. It was like, wow.
Wow.
And it was just a comfort. It was just like I had just taken that big, deep breath that I had been longing for so long.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I can describe it. It was wonderful.
And also, you have to remember that Don was diagnosed at 41 and he's getting ready to turn 56. Mm-hmm. So he's had this disease a long time. And what you see now is not what I'm going to see as soon as we're done with this interview. He's going to shut down. He'll be tired. But because of that DBS, he is able to communicate that to me, that he just needs to be in a quiet space and, not having any outside interference. Without the DBS on, he's not able to communicate that with me. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's peace of mind knowing that he can still communicate how he's feeling and what's going on with him.
I want to step back in time a minute and ask Don, do you remember the surgery itself?
I do.
What do you remember about it?
The first thing I remember was they came in the room first and they put the halo on your head, which that wasn't bad. I mean, that wasn't bad at all. Then I just remember them talking and pulling and pushing on my head. And then all of a sudden I heard crunch, 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 crunch. And he had a hand auger and it was drilling into my skull. And
you didn't feel it though.
Didn't feel it.
You didn't feel anything.
You don't have any sensors, pain sensors in your brain. So they put everything in, and I was awake for that part because they had to talk to me the whole time to make sure I was doing okay. Then once they got all that in place, they pushed a wire underneath my skin all the way down my neck, and there's a connector behind my ear. And then there's a piece that goes from here, and you can see it. That wire there goes down to the battery in my chest. But they put you out for that part. They kept you awake for this and put you out for that. And
he did really well.
I mean, I was fine. It was.
He didn't have anything negative to say about the procedure. No. So that was good.
So the testing that you went through for the study, there's a lot of it. How was that experience for you? Was it tiring? Was it difficult?
For the DBS testing initially, he wasn't bothered by it at all because he really wanted to be involved in this study.
We made it kind of a date because we came, on different days. And so our drive was a little bit longer. I mean, it took us, what 3 hours?
3 or 4 hours.
3.5 hours to get to Baltimore from here. So we just made it a date day. So we would go up, and that was just ended up being the minor part of the day. And the rest of the day was getting something to eat and doing something like that.
Some days he did great. Other days he was mad because they didn't want to give him anything to eat, during testing. And so with Alzheimer's, you just have to sit back, take the test, remember why you're there. And yes, it's a lot of testing, but they want to make sure you're a good candidate, that you are able to withstand the surgery, that to make sure you're going to be safe. And so he did the testing. Some days were good, some days, it was a little more stressful for him, but he knew in the end it was for a good cause. And I think that's what kept him going. One of the important parts to this as well is they told Don over and over again, if you ever get to the point where you think it's too much and you can't handle it, you don't have to go through with it. You can stop even up to the day of surgery. You can stop being wheeled into surgery.
I do remember.
You have that option, and that's always comforting.
I do remember the doctor asking me, I think before I got the surgery, because my neck was hurting. Mm-hmm. He said, "Are you sure you want to continue?" I said, mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not leaving now. I got this thing bolted to my head. I'm not
just go for it, right?
During the testing of the leads, they go at different levels. Mm-hmm. The FDA will only allow you at a certain level, but at the higher numbers also, he was really able to remember things that I thought he had forgotten. And it just proved to me, unfortunately, with Alzheimer's, those memories are still there. They're all there. The problem is you lose the connection to get to them. And the DBS showed us that if we can rewire that connection somehow, the memories are still there. So it's very interesting and exciting thing to have happen. And even you were thrilled at the fact that you were remembering things that you had long forgotten.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When he turned it, up real high, I was almost transported one time to being a little kid in the house that I was way back, and I knew all my friends. I mean,
and in the middle,
I could just look around and I could see that it was almost like a 3-dimensional thing. And
I was thinking to myself, is he serious? And then in the middle of Don explaining where he was and what he was remembering, he stopped and he was like, what are we doing? What's going on? And the fella that had the device that turned it on, turned it up, turned it down, had actually turned the device off in the middle of Don telling the story. And as soon as he did that, Don's memories stopped.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it really, and he had it under the table, so we didn't know he had done anything. It was incredible to see. So we know it works.
Yeah.
And
it's impressive.
It's impressive indeed. Yeah. Oh. And as the years pass with Don's diagnosis, he's able to do less and less. Mm-hmm. So we adjust for that.
Yeah, we don't try to hide it from anybody. I mean,
yeah. Well, Don's at the point now where he really can't hide it anymore.
Yeah, I can't hide it. But
like, you'll know when he's done. You'll know what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do. But again, that sort of takes me back to the DBS, because without the DBS, he wouldn't be communicating those things. We would just be getting his behaviors and not necessarily when he's able to talk about it, conversation.
As you've said, because of the DBS system, you're still able to communicate those feelings, that sensation of I'm overwhelmed, I'm frustrated, my anxiety is going up to Christy. So you're able to, as best as possible, given the moment, manage that. So she knows you're feeling overwhelmed. And so the communication is key in that. And so the system, you firmly believe, has allowed you to maintain that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now,
that is the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The DBS has continued to allow Don to communicate. He still has Alzheimer's. So when he's really shutting down from the stresses of life, even though he's able to think to himself, too much is going on, Kate, he might forget to communicate that to me. But if I slow him down and ask him what's going on, what's bothering you, that DBS is there to help him communicate at that time, where I may have to ask him questions to get the answers I'm looking for. But we've been living with this disease for so long, I sort of can read him.
If you were to be in a room with someone who's considering coming into the new study, what would you say to them? What advice would you have for them?
There's going to be a special reason that you want to do it. Mm-hmm. It's not just, we know it's not a cure. So I think there's a good chance that you'll have more positives than negatives out of it, no matter who you are, no matter what. Don't do it unless you're doing it for yourself and others. That's what I would say.
I would look at it, if it were my decision whether or not I was getting DBS or not, I would look at the pros and the cons. We know what the cons are with Alzheimer's disease. You know, little by little, your brain will be like, it's like an onion, and you're peeling, the disease is peeling layers back one by one until you get down to the only thing that's left is that core of the onion. And why would you not want to seriously think about maybe slowing that process down, or even stopping that process? And in the meantime, the DBS is, it gives you a couple things. It gives you a better quality of life, and it gives you that ability to complete your thoughts. Whereas without the DBS, in Don's situation, those thoughts were just getting all scrambled up. And the DBS helped him keep his thoughts straight, and also gave him, in his situation, the ability to keep communicating. And we have proof of that. When the batteries have died and we've had to replace them, we saw what the difference was between a well-functioning DBS unit with a good battery and one that was slowly needing help to be replaced. And I can tell you, I don't want Don to live without that DBS, because I know his quality of life would be so much less.
Yeah.
And it has given us the opportunity to have and keep having wonderful memories and wonderful opportunities to still enjoy life on the days that he's able to enjoy it. And without that DBS, number one, I don't think he would be here any longer. And I know for a fact that some of our most wonderful memories that we've shared in the last several years, we wouldn't have had those, because he would have been at a much different place in his disease.
Yeah.
Do you know if, because I know in the first study it was a double-blind randomized study. Do you know which group you were in? Were you
Yes.
on?
Don was in, Don, when he first got the DBS, and they did the testing of it, and Don had all these wonderful memories, and it felt like all the connections were there. We were like, yes, this is awesome. So he went home, and we're thinking, what's going on with this thing? Sure isn't working very good. You know, why'd we do this?
I did have the euphoria.
Yeah, he had the euphoria after surgery, which a lot of people
thought it was working.
Yeah.
Said, oh man, this is nice.
Yeah, but after a couple of weeks, the euphoria runs out.
Yeah, it ran out.
Yeah, and so for the first year, we were like scratching our heads thinking, I'm not sure we think this is doing anything. And come to find out, at the end of the year, Don was in the group that was off. So we figured that just figures for us, you know. But then at the end of that year, he was turned on, and we really noticed a huge difference at that point.
The
so
lights came on.
Yeah,
it was just so nice.
Big difference. So we are here to say that it has made a huge impact in Don's life, in his quality of life, which, if he's having a better day, we're all having a better day. And so it was the best thing that we ever did as far as trying to find something to help Don. And it all starts with educating yourself, reaching out to other people, and finding out what's available for you, and not taking a diagnosis of a horrible, horrible disease. I wouldn't wish this on anybody. But going home and doing nothing about it and just sitting back and closing yourself off to the world and the experiences that you can still get and have is the worst thing you can do. So why not open up your imagination and the possibilities that are out there that could make your quality of life better while you're dealing with a horrible disease? And I feel like that's what Don did. He didn't close himself off. And we went through every open door for him to try and make his life a little better. And we can honestly say if Don passed away tomorrow, that we did everything that we could possibly do, from drug trials to the DBS to speaking and getting involved and telling our story. He has done an amazing job, and through that he's had hope through this whole time. So it's about still living while you have a horrible diagnosis of Alzheimer's. And I think Don's done a wonderful job.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
You've done a bad job
Thank
yourself.
you.
So, Christy, I want to leave you and Don with some good time of your own before he gets too worn out for us. So, wanted to just see if either of you have any final thoughts you wanted to leave with us.
I would want people to remember that when they're diagnosed with a disease like this, or their loved one is diagnosed, take a step back and don't be so quick to react right away. Do your homework, educate yourself, find out what your options are. Getting involved with other people that have been on this journey will help you so much. And just remember that life is what we make it. Even though we were giving some bad information as far as a diagnosis, it is time to take the opportunity to just take a different road in your life. And yes, a lot of things you're going to lose, but then a lot of other doors are going to open up. In the mid 40s, we never thought Don would be finished working, or that he wouldn't be able to drive, or he wouldn't be able to play his music or sing the way he used to sing. But all those things happened. And so we took that information and we really ran with it to try and find a better way for Don to live what years that he had left, with hope and determination that he could still have quality, wonderful years ahead of him. And it's been hard, and it's not always easy. It's difficult a lot of the times, but we still laugh. We love each other more than we ever have. And we still have hope for Don. And it's just don't give up, and, find ways to make your life even better, even with news like Alzheimer's.
And I think better doesn't necessarily have to be things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one thing that this disease did for me, I would have never been as close to my family, as I was very work driven.
Yes.
And because of this disease, I got a second chance with my grown son.
Mm-hmm.
I got closer to my wife than I've ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a very stable home environment. A lot of people can't say that.
I think it's really important to concentrate on what you can still do, what you can still have,
Mm-hmm.
who is still around you, versus all the things that you've lost. Alzheimer's is a disease that just takes and takes and takes. And while you're in the middle of that process, you have to keep yourself afloat by saying, yes, I can't still do this, but I can do this.
Well,
and that's a really big key, that if you start looking at life that way, things will be a lot better.
I want to thank you both so much for talking
Absolutely.
with me today and doing this.